Listen closely, for this is where the invisible chains of desire begin to break. There is a fundamental truth in human behavior, a principle so simple and yet so ignored that it has cost countless men their influence, their power, and their very presence in the lives of those they long to capture. Humans do not value what is always present. The mind, the heart, and even the body are inclined toward scarcity, toward that which is rare, difficult to attain, and uncertain. Attention that is unlimited becomes invisible. Devotion without restraint becomes a shadow, easily overlooked, easily replaced. You can give endlessly, but without limitation, you become weightless, and your existence can be forgotten as though it never mattered. In every age, rulers, kings, and princes understood this principle intuitively. Machiavelli did not write of love or seduction, but of power, and yet the same laws of influence apply. A prince who is always seen, always available, is no longer respected. His power is diluted because presence alone has no value when it is constant and unquestioned. So too, in the realm of desire, the man who offers his heart endlessly, who makes himself predictable and accessible, becomes furniture in her life. He becomes a constant fixture, something to be tolerated rather than something to be desired. Emotional abundance, unmeasured and unguarded, breeds indifference. The key, therefore, is scarcity, but scarcity must not appear forced. It cannot be manufactured by cruelty, by silence born of resentment, nor by abrupt withdrawal that betrays immaturity or fear. Scarcity must be cultivated, disciplined, and deliberate. It is not a game, but a strategy. You are not seeking to punish or torment. You are seeking to elevate your own value, to awaken the natural instinct in another person to pursue, to notice, to crave. When attention is measured, when devotion is controlled, it becomes precious. It becomes currency. It becomes the quiet force that draws her toward you, as if by gravity itself, compelling her interest, her curiosity, and eventually her obsession. Consider the man who constantly messages, constantly reassures, constantly demonstrates devotion. Observe how, despite his efforts, she drifts, grows indifferent, or turns her attention elsewhere. Effort alone does not command desire. It is availability, predictability, and unlimited supply that kill attraction. The human mind, no matter how tender or passionate, craves challenge, craves the pursuit, craves the sense that something is at risk. When you are always present, when you are always there to soothe, to respond, to yield, her attention becomes a burden, and her interest fades. Now imagine the opposite. The man who offers glimpses of attention, who appears selectively, who invests in the interaction as if each moment of contact were a rare treasure. In his controlled presence, his silence carries weight. His absence carries more. Each word he speaks is measured, each gesture intentional. The scarcity of his attention creates intrigue. It forces the mind to linger on him. She begins to notice what she never noticed before. She begins to value the smallest gesture, the briefest interaction. She wonders why he is not always there, why he does not bend to her every demand, why he does not chase as she expects. This is not cruelty. This is mastery. This is the art of commanding attention without begging for it, of wielding desire without oppression. Scarcity does not mean coldness. It does not mean pretending to be uninterested or hiding one's feelings. It means restraint. It means knowing your own worth and refusing to dilute it through overexposure. Machiavelli understood that power must be exercised with strategy, that influence comes not from availability, but from the perception of value. The same is true in attraction. When you allow yourself to be scarce, when your attention is not free, When your presence is not guaranteed, you do not become distant. You become magnetic. You do not inspire apathy, you inspire pursuit. Every interaction becomes significant. Every word, every glance, every moment together gains weight. She will think of you in your absence, reflect on your behaviors, interpret your gestures, and wonder about your choices. The scarcity you create triggers an emotional mechanism that cannot be controlled by reason alone. It bypasses logic and enters the territory of instinct and desire. She will chase, she will obsess, she will seek the rare, the meaningful, the unavailable. Scarcity is the invisible force that transforms ordinary attention into power. It is the difference between being a man who pleads for recognition and a man who is remembered without effort. It is the law that governs desire, attraction, and obsession. And it is a law that the careless, the naive, and the overly generous violate every day, unwittingly surrendering influence over their own lives. To understand this is to take the first step into mastery, the first step into a realm where you dictate the terms of interaction, where her pursuit follows your rhythm, where attention is given, but never demanded, and where desire, once lost to indifference, is reignited with precision and intent. There is a method so subtle, so powerful, that those who discover it often tremble at their own influence. It is called controlled withdrawal, and it is the art of becoming the unfinished story in someone's life. Most men make the fatal error of believing that pursuit, explanation, and constant presence will secure affection. They believe that if they are always available, always attentive, always expressive, desire will bloom naturally. Yet the mind and heart do not work this way. Desire is not sustained by certainty. It is ignited by absence, by mystery, and by the sense that something vital is just beyond reach. To be the unfinished story is to create tension without cruelty, to generate curiosity without coercion, and to command attention without demanding it. Controlled withdrawal is not disappearance. It is not avoidance or fear dressed as strategy. It is precision in presence and absence alike. The key lies in leaving parts of yourself undefined, in engaging without revealing all, in stepping back without turning cold. Machiavelli observed rulers who understood the power of restraint. A prince did not display all his intentions. He withheld his plans to maintain advantage. The same principle applies in the realm of desire. When you reveal too much, when you are fully known, the mind no longer needs to pursue. The story is complete, the puzzle solved, and intrigue dies. By contrast, when you step back strategically, when you become partially unavailable, you introduce uncertainty. Uncertainty drives the human mind to fill gaps, to wonder, to imagine, to obsess. When she cannot fully grasp your motivations, your intentions, or even the rhythm of your attention, her mind begins to work in your absence. She recalls every conversation, every gesture, every glance, analyzing, replaying, and interpreting. Controlled withdrawal transforms your absence into a force, a magnet that draws her closer, not by effort, but by the natural curiosity of the human heart. It is essential to understand the difference between withdrawal and punishment. Many men attempt disappearance as a form of retaliation, anger, or jealousy. They vanish abruptly, they ignore, they withdraw carelessly, and the result is confusion, resentment, or complete disinterest. Controlled withdrawal is deliberate. It is intentional. It is executed with calm precision, not emotional chaos. You withdraw just enough to spark curiosity, but not enough to create fear or doubt about your interest. Your presence becomes selective, meaningful, and weighted with intention. Every return, every word, every glance carries significance because it is measured. This strategy relies upon timing, and timing is everything. One must understand the rhythm of interaction, the ebb and flow of attention and absence. You do not vanish for days without reason. You do not ignore without awareness. Instead, you modulate your availability, creating a pattern that she cannot fully predict. She comes to expect your attention in irregular intervals, and the irregularity itself becomes intoxicating. When she cannot predict your behavior, she begins to invest emotionally, not because you have demanded it, but because her mind and heart are compelled to resolve the mystery you have become. The unfinished story is also the story of restraint. Do not reveal all your feelings, your intentions, or your desires. Let her uncover them slowly, voluntarily, and without pressure. When a man gives everything at once, he removes the need for pursuit, the thrill of discovery, and the spark of imagination. When a man becomes an unfinished story, he creates a narrative that she must chase, interpret, and invest in. She becomes a participant in the story, a seeker of meaning, a pursuer of the unknown. And in this pursuit, obsession is born naturally, effortlessly, and inexorably. It is critical to maintain consistency in your approach. Controlled withdrawal is not sporadic or reactive. It is disciplined and strategic. It requires an understanding of one's own worth, an awareness of boundaries, and the courage to let go of immediate gratification. The mind naturally seeks closure, resolution, and understanding. By withholding complete knowledge, by remaining partly undefined, you create a psychological tension that she cannot ignore. She will think of you in your absence. She will wonder about your intentions. She will replay every interaction. She will fill in the gaps with imagination, and imagination is far more compelling than reality itself. Finally, controlled withdrawal teaches mastery over oneself. You are not simply manipulating attention. You are exercising emotional self-rule. You are choosing where and how to invest your energy, and in doing so, you elevate your own value. Absence, when executed with purpose, becomes your silent declaration. You are not dependent on her validation, yet she cannot resist the pull of your presence. You are no longer a story fully told. You are the story she must pursue, the narrative she cannot complete, and the obsession that she cannot escape. Now we arrive at a principle so powerful, so unyielding, that to ignore it is to render all other efforts futile. Desire, attraction, and obsession are not born merely from kindness, attention, or even passion. They are born from scarcity, tension, and most importantly, from the fear of loss. The human mind reacts more urgently to the threat of losing something than to the promise of gaining it. This is an immutable law of psychology, a law that Machiavelli recognized in the courts of princes and kings, and it is the same law that governs the dynamics of attraction and emotional pursuit. If you understand this principle, you will understand why your previous efforts, no matter how generous, often failed to command attention, interest, and devotion. Many men operate under the false assumption that giving more, loving harder, and offering themselves endlessly will create desire. They believe that by fulfilling every need, solving every problem, and removing every obstacle, they will inspire gratitude, attachment, and even obsession. Yet the mind does not respond to security with passion. Security breeds complacency. Security encourages indifference. Desire is not sustained by comfort. It is ignited by risk, uncertainty, and the looming possibility of absence. To invoke the fear of loss is not to threaten, manipulate, or coerce. It is to present reality, that your attention, your affection, and your presence are not guaranteed, and that these are treasures she may miss if she takes them for granted. Machiavelli wrote of power in terms of control, influence, and perception, and these same rules apply to attraction. People act quickly to prevent loss, far faster than they act to obtain something new. This is the instinct that drives markets, wars, and alliances, and it is the instinct that drives human desire. When a woman senses that your attention is limitless, that your devotion is unshakable, her mind does not race toward pursuit. It drifts toward complacency. She no longer fears losing you, and without fear, urgency disappears. Obsession cannot survive certainty. Therefore, the key is not to increase your efforts, but to carefully withdraw them, to create a subtle imbalance where your attention is valued precisely because it is no longer freely abundant. Controlled withdrawal alone is not enough. It must be coupled with the art of meaningful engagement when you do return. You cannot vanish without leaving traces of your presence, nor can you be absent without creating emotional ripples. Every interaction must carry weight. Every gesture, word, or glance must remind her that what she values is real and yet fleeting. The human mind craves what it might lose. The heart intensifies desire when attachment is threatened. By balancing presence with absence, engagement with restraint, you create an environment in which she must act, in which she must invest emotionally, in which her desire cannot remain dormant. Consider the woman who has always received his attention without limit. She knows he will respond immediately, that he will forgive every mistake, that he will never abandon her. Her mind grows complacent, her attention fades. Now consider the man who subtly limits access, who invests his time selectively, and who never allows certainty to govern her perception of him. Her mind begins to work. She begins to analyze, to question, to anticipate. Each absence carries weight. Each delayed response creates tension. Each moment apart intensifies the fear of losing what she has begun to value, but can no longer take for granted. Obsession is born not from effort, but from scarcity aligned with perceived significance. It is important to understand that fear of loss does not mean cruelty, manipulation, or emotional games. It is the natural response to value being withheld. When you live by your own standards, when you cultivate your own life, when you measure attention instead of surrendering it unconditionally, you automatically trigger the most primal instincts of desire. The fear of losing you becomes a silent, relentless force. She thinks of you constantly, anticipates your return, and reevaluates every interaction through the lens of potential absence. This principle is far more effective than persuasion, seduction, or verbal assurances. The mind cannot ignore what it fears to lose. The heart cannot remain indifferent when scarcity and value converge. Machiavelli understood this in political terms. Subjects act to preserve what they fear losing. Alliances are forged to prevent the collapse of advantage, and influence is maintained by the controlled perception of scarcity. In love and attraction, the same law applies. The more she senses that your presence is not guaranteed, the more she pursues it, consciously or unconsciously. Her obsession becomes a mirror of your controlled distance, a reflection of the balance between fear and desire that you have carefully constructed. Mastering this principle requires courage, discipline, and self-control. You must resist the urge to overcompensate, to plead, to justify, or to prove your devotion. The moment you act out of fear of losing her, you undermine the very mechanism you are trying to activate. Fear of loss only works when it is subtle, when it is natural, and when it is supported by your independence. You are not withholding attention as punishment. You are withholding it as demonstration of your value, of your autonomy, and of the reality that your presence is precious precisely because it is not infinite. Now we arrive at a principle so subtle, so potent, that those who fail to understand it remain eternally lost in the chase. Most men believe that the key to attraction is their physical presence, their attention, their words, or their gestures. They think that by giving more, by pursuing harder, by proving themselves endlessly, they will become irresistible. This is a dangerous illusion. True obsession is never inspired by the man alone. It is inspired by the meaning he represents, the mystery he carries, the perception of value that lies just beyond reach. She does not chase you. She chases the story, the enigma, the significance that you embody, often without your words or actions needing to explain it. Machiavelli taught that power is not exercised by force, but by perception. Influence is not claimed by brute strength, but by the image of importance, the careful management of presence, and the deliberate withholding of knowledge. The same laws govern human desire. When a man reveals all, when he explains everything, when he becomes transparent, he eliminates the very tension that drives fascination. The mind and heart respond not to certainty, but to curiosity. They respond to the unknown, the incomplete, the symbol of something greater than mere availability. To be chaste is to become a figure of significance, an idea that cannot be fully grasped, and therefore cannot be ignored. The first step in letting her chase the meaning is restraint. You must resist the temptation to over-explain your intentions, to justify your actions, or to satisfy every question she has about you. Transparency is often mistaken for honesty, but in reality, it is surrender. By withholding full understanding, by allowing parts of your life, mind, and emotions to remain unexplored, you create intrigue. She will begin to fill in the blanks herself. Her imagination will work in your absence, weaving stories, interpreting gestures, and constructing a narrative that draws her toward you with increasing intensity. She is no longer chasing your physical presence. She is chasing the meaning behind it, the symbol you represent in her mind. Controlled revelation is essential. Share pieces of yourself, but never the whole. Let her glimpse your values, your passions, and your intentions, but leave the rest shrouded. Each reveal must feel like a gift, carefully measured and perfectly timed. The human mind is not satisfied with the obvious. It hungers for the subtle, the layered, the partially concealed. When you become an unfinished story, a puzzle, a force whose significance is felt more than explained, she is compelled to seek, to analyze, and to pursue. Obsession is born in the mind, and the mind responds most strongly to meaning that is partially veiled. Do not confuse this with gamesmanship or deception. The goal is not to mislead or manipulate. The goal is to create a natural hierarchy of value. You are not chasing approval. You are holding space for her to understand the weight of your presence through her own discovery. When she begins to perceive your life, your attention, and your emotional depth as meaningful, she invests her energy willingly, passionately, and without coercion. She begins to pursue not you, but the significance you embody. She becomes the hunter, and you the prize whose meaning she must earn, not the man who begs to be chosen. The method requires consistency. You must maintain the balance between engagement and withdrawal, presence and absence, revelation and restraint. Every word, every gesture, every interaction must reinforce the perception of value. When she senses your attention is deliberate, that your time and energy are not infinite, she begins to prize it more. When she senses that she cannot fully possess or predict you, her desire intensifies. The mind cannot ignore the enigmatic, and the heart cannot resist the pursuit of something perceived as rare and valuable. Let her chase the meaning in your silence as much as in your speech. Allow your actions, your decisions, and even your absences to communicate significance. When you live according to your own standards, when you pursue your own goals, and when you cultivate your own presence, she will naturally interpret these qualities as extraordinary. The meaning is in your autonomy, your confidence, your depth, and your refusal to be fully consumed by her need for reassurance. Obsession is never demanded. It is invited, nurtured, and ultimately inevitable when the meaning is clear, and the man behind it is intentionally partially veiled. The greatest power in attraction is not to give yourself completely, but to allow your significance to speak for you. When a woman chases the meaning, she is chasing a story larger than herself, a symbol of value that she cannot fully define or contain. She becomes invested in discovery, in interpretation, and in pursuit. The chase is no longer about validation, attention, or presence. It is about understanding, connection, and the unraveling of the enigma you have become. By mastering this principle, you shift the balance of desire entirely. She is no longer the one who decides, pursues, or dictates the emotional narrative. You have become the axis around which curiosity, obsession, and admiration rotate. The meaning you carry compels her. The mystery you maintain captivates her. The presence you choose to reveal commands her attention. She chases the significance, the value, the symbolism. She chases you without realizing she is drawn by forces you control. Forces rooted not in coercion, but in restraint, perception, and strategic revelation.